Everybody, Stephen Lowisz here with GTM Secrets, everything go-to-market sales, marketing, RevOps, analytics, you name it. We talk about just about everything. As always, I have a pretty interesting guest here. Keith Wright is actually, I'm a client of his. He's a former GM guy, and being from Detroit, I like the big three. And then on top of that, Google, now a fellow entrepreneur, so wanted to bring him on. But Keith, do you mind sharing a little bit more about your background?
Yeah, so I started getting into marketing when I was interning for General Motors for the brand Opel, and then became a marketing assistant there. That was when I was just getting started in college. And then coming out of college, I joined a startup, a very early stage startup in Silicon Valley, which is where I was born and raised in San Jose area. Startup, it was called Wildfire Interactive, and we had a unique platform that made it easy to launch promotions to your Facebook page. So this would be like sweepstakes, giveaways, photo contests. And these promotions were a great way for brands to quickly grow their Facebook following, get them engaged, and ultimately monetize them. And this was back in like 2008, 9, 10, 11. And back then, social media marketing was just becoming a legitimate marketing channel. And everybody wanted more fans or followers. And this was a great way to do it. And so we scaled that business. When I joined, we had like 10 employees. We grew to about 350 in less than 3 years, ran over 120,000 promotions. So learned a lot about how to leverage incentives to get certain marketing objectives accomplished. And then we were acquired by Google in 2012. And that was a big celebration. And shortly after we got acquired by Google, I actually left that Wildfire team at Google and joined a new kind of like quote unquote startup within Google, which was Google Analytics Premium. They were launching the first enterprise version of Google Analytics, and we were going head to head with Adobe's Omniture because they were the main enterprise analytics solution out there. And we quickly grew that client roster for GA Premium from like literally 0 to about 1,000 clients in about 3 years. Huge success. And from there, we started building out some ancillary analytics products like Data Studio, which is now Looker Studio, Google Tag Manager 360, Optimize, which is like Optimizely for A/B testing.
Isn't that
website
now?
experiences. It's been, I haven't even been tracking it, for the past couple of years, but I think it's now the capabilities have been incorporated into like GA, I believe. Not exactly sure. But then we joined forces with the buy side of DoubleClick. So like DoubleClick Bid Manager, DoubleClick Campaign Manager, DoubleClick Search Ads, and rebranded all of it under the banner of Google Marketing Platform, the Google Marketing Platform. And that's what it's called today. And then I started to explore new projects, trying to bring together that platform with Google Cloud and really unleash all this AI and machine learning on the data that we were pulling from those platforms and trying to build predictive models that would help clients do a better job of targeting their ad spend based on all of these different audience signals and ad messaging effectiveness signals. And that was pretty cool. And so right at that time, that's when I was realizing, hey, we actually need better data to create these models to make predictions off of. And that data just did not exist. And that's when I started to think about, well, what if we use an incentive like we were doing back at Wildfire, but we would incentivize the target audience that we're targeting with the campaign to go through a process and answer a bunch of questions that is linked back to that original audience so that we're left with all this data that can help us understand not only how effective certain messaging is, but why it's effective. And so I left Google to start SweepLift, and I partnered up with a couple different people that were also at Google and also at Facebook to start building this platform. So, and we've been doing that now for about 3 years. And initially, we started really focusing in on B2C, business to consumer clients. But then we realized about a year later that The B2B clients need a lot more help, and they're much more willing to pay than the B2C clients. And that's when we started really focusing in on like the strategy for B2B, and we haven't looked back ever since. And so now what we're doing is like really it's incentivized lead generation, but all of our clients learn an incredible amount about their audience because we have them go through this whole qualification survey where we get to score them as a lead based on how they answer these questions. We require them to watch videos to get them educated on the solution of the client, and then answer a couple discovery questions to help the sales rep know where to take the conversation before we allow them to sign up for a meeting. And the whole reason that these leads are willing to jump through those hoops to sign up for the meeting is because we have an incentive. And so we really leverage that incentive to get the target audience to basically go through this process. And it works quite well. So there hasn't really been an audience, a B2B audience to date that we haven't been able to kind of like really plug into. And we leverage a combination of paid search, paid social, and email marketing to basically recruit these audiences.
Love it. Real quick, what did Google do with Wildfire? They're not in the social game.
Yeah, well, things really changed once Facebook went public. When they went public, media just kind of like disappeared. If you're like Pepsi and you had 10 million followers, when you would send out a post before Facebook went public, you'd reach like, 30, 40% of that entire audience. After they went public, they shut that down because they wanted you to put money into ads. So it would only reach a fraction of 1% of that audience. And so that just completely changed everything. Google also takes a lot of their acquisitions and they kind of like dissect them into a bunch of different pieces and then sort of incorporate them into different pre-existing products, which is exactly what they did with Wildfire too. So there's remnants of Wildfire that is still active today in different products, but it's hard for me to even know where it's active nowadays. I know a lot of the people from Wildfire are still at Google, working across YouTube, working across DoubleClick, Google Cloud, all over the place.
I guess I was incorrect in saying that Google's not in the social game. They do own YouTube. That's a good point.
They got YouTube, yeah.
I've heard Facebook, if you have 100 followers, 2 will see your post. I bet you're right, though. I bet it is a fraction of 1%. That's interesting. Now, you were more on the sales side. When did you actually switch into, no, I'm going to go be a media buyer?
Yeah, well, I was always working really closely with media buyers. I had a whole team of media buyers, and we're developing all this strategy and stuff. And I would also pull in different agency partners to be media buyers for different clients. But it was like the last 3 years that I was at Google when I was starting to work on like really exciting, innovative projects in the cloud. So pulling in all of this data from these different ad buying platforms that we were managing at Google, getting it into Google's BigQuery and stitching it all together along with the CRM data of the client, the personally identifiable information they have on their customers. And then creating these different predictive models on top of that and taking the results and piping that back into Google's media buying engines. And we were getting very creative, and Google was giving me a budget to pull in all these different professional service providers that would build these elaborate data models. And that's really when I was able to kind of start experimenting with all these different unique ideas. And that's when I decided it was a good idea for me to kind of, jump ship and keep running with a couple different concepts that I thought were really exciting to explore. But for whatever reason, Google wasn't ready to continue investing into some of these because it didn't perfectly align with kind of how they made their big bucks.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So you took over my LinkedIn ad accounts and you're just starting Google ads. Mm-hmm. I've tried LinkedIn ads and they didn't work at all. Yours did, right? For a very tiny budget, considering we're a tiny startup, you've had a pretty large impact again, I don't mean this to be a pitch fest, but yes, go check out SweepLift. You've brought in, I don't know, 50, 60 hot opportunities, including some that are enterprise level for us by teasing, a $50 gift card. My ads didn't do jack. And I'm generally, I've been a pretty good media buyer, but it wasn't working for identity.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is the difference between how you do creative and how others like myself do creative? Is it literally down to the ethical bribe? It's got to be more than that.
Well, we only do one type of campaign strategy, and we stick to that. And we try to learn how to do it better than anyone else out there. So, like if you were to work with SweepLift, there's really only one campaign strategy that we know how to do very well. Now, there's different flavors of it for sure, but we have our own formula when it comes to developing messaging, developing creative, and understanding kind of which channels to deploy that on to get the best cost per lead based on who your audience is. But the way that I kind of summarize that formula is it kind of breaks down into three different things or three different components. The first, you need some kind of really effective marketing claim that resonates with the target audience. So like, save 15% on your car insurance kind of thing. And then you need some kind of brand offer that the audience cares about, but it needs to be related to your brand. So like some kind of free trial, right? Sign up for a meeting and get a 3-month free trial. But people don't care about free trials. It's all about the key result that could come from that free trial. So like in your case, it's the fact that they can generate 1,000 or thousands of free leads within that first 3 months if they have the right amount of website traffic. And then the last thing would be some kind of like incentive, a gift card or some kind of product that you'd be giving them, like AirPods. But that's really just a thank you for their time and nothing else. So it's really those three coming together. That's sort of what unlocks performance. And you need them all kind of working with each other. The incentive, the brand related offer, and effective marketing claims.
So let's talk about how you market you. There are a billion ad buyers out there. And you, correct me if I'm wrong, your niche is primarily B2B SaaS. Although, yes, I do know that you work outside of that, HR, etc., recruiting, so on and so forth. How do you differentiate yourself? Like, what is it that, like, you came to me from an advisor referral that I trust very well. So I didn't go through your typical buying process. How does your process stand out in terms of how you get your own clients versus every other marketing agency and their mother working from their mom's basement?
Yeah, so we eat our own dog food. So we run our own campaign, and that is in line with this exact strategy that I just broke down. And we get an incredible amount of signups every single day that it's live. And what's so powerful about that is the lead goes through the exact process that they become interested in having us implement for them. And they've already experienced it firsthand. So it's very hard for those leads to say, oh, it's not going to work for my audience, especially when it worked on them.
Yeah.
And then it's all about
hard to overcome.
Yeah. And so that's how we get 95% of all of our customers. 5% kind of come through our network like yourself, but we have a lot of leads. Our sales reps are very busy with a full calendar of meetings. And then it's all about the pitch, and so it's just when we meet with them first, we really lay out the strategy and help them understand how it could be applied to their brand and their audience. And they're usually leaning into the conversation because they know it just worked on them. They went through it. They experienced it firsthand. There's even a video that we have them watch in the qualification survey where we're telling them that you're experiencing this firsthand right now. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's very different than any of the other, I guess, B2B marketing agencies out there in terms of how they generate leads and develop sales opportunities. But it's been working really well for us. And, I don't see it stopping anytime soon. It seems like there's just kind of an infinite amount of leads out there.
You're more PC than me. I like drink your own Kool-Aid over dog food, but pick your poison.
Yeah.
I do find it very funny when agencies, I used to be on the consulting side. Agencies will reach out and be like, I need your help to drive more leads. Isn't that your frickin' job? So I respect that you take them through your own funnel. Now,
Yeah.
you gave me some tips when we first started working together that I think you can attribute at least some of them to some of the success that you and I are having with identity. One was turn off expansion audience on LinkedIn. I didn't know it was all bots. I just thought it was great, CPC, and I was thrilled.
Yeah.
You let me know that it's garbage, and I think the proof's in the pudding. What are some of the other little nuances, whether it's LinkedIn or Google Ads, that you would recommend, somebody who can't afford an agency, somebody who has to do it themselves? What are some of the little tips and tricks that you recommend like that?
Yeah, well, I think that applies to Facebook, to Google, to LinkedIn. So they all have their own audience networks. And that is composed of all these outside websites that are outside of the walled garden of the LinkedIn platform, of the Facebook Blue platform or Instagram. And the second you start buying media from those websites, you run into the same issues that you would run into with like open programmatic DSPs, demand side platforms. They're fraught with bots. And so they'll just eat up your ad spend, and they obviously can't become customers because they're bots. And
Yeah.
we can actually identify what percentage of website visitors that we're receiving from our campaigns are bots versus humans. And so we have plenty of evidence to show that that's the case. But yeah, that's a very simple one.
Real quick, on that topic, what do you think about tools like ClickCease and whatnot to detect bots?
Yeah, I think they're all good practice to use them, having them on your landing page that you're driving traffic to. And though that is always going to be much more effective than like, a double verify that you have implemented into the DSP of what you're buying media from. For some reason, the bad actors are able to get around double verify, and it still ends up buying a lot of traffic that is just like nefarious. But anything that you can implement on your own properties is a really good practice. And it gives you great insight into the quality of the traffic that you're buying, essentially, from the paid media. And that could help you save a lot of money, because paid media is expensive, especially LinkedIn, and even Google in many cases. So yeah, that would be my opinion. Anything that you can implement on a property that you own is going to be much more effective than something that is implemented in the media buying tool itself.
I've never understood what's the point of bots clicking on ads. I mean, it's not like it's your competitor, at least most of the time, clicking on your ads to be a jerk. Like, what is the point?
Yeah, so if I was the owner of a website, a publication website, let's say, I don't know, truckdads.com. So I got a bunch of dads that love trucks, and they come and read my content. Say I'm using Google's DoubleClick to serve ads.
Bump
on
up
my
ad? No.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to go, if I'm a bad actor, I'm going to go create a bunch of bots and send them to my site, and then it's going to bump up the traffic, and then Google's going to pay me out more. So that's the whole game.
Just a side note, a guy just got sentenced to 10 years in jail because he had the brain genius idea of he used AI to create music, loaded up on Spotify, and then had millions and millions of listens from bots, got paid a bunch of money from it. Now he's going to jail.
Well, that's like illegal. Yeah. Well, I'm not even familiar with the laws that combat that kind of stuff, but I believe it is illegal. It should be illegal. And yeah, I mean, that's a huge problem. There's been incredibly large bot farms that have made hundreds of millions of dollars. There's one famous one called ChefBot that took a while for Google to kind of get shut down, but it siphoned out nearly $1 billion from these different demand side platform ad networks. This was back, I don't know, 10 years ago or so.
Well, in all fairness, it's not hard to trick Google. There was also another guy who I think it was Facebook and Google. He started sending invoices to accounting, never worked with them, wasn't legitimate, and he got paid millions by sending fraudulent invoices. Eventually got caught, went to prison. So it doesn't work out in the end. But I
No,
do find it hilarious how if people put that much effort into working ethically, I bet they'd still do very well.
they could. A lot of them are not based here in the US,
No.
Yeah. And that's the challenge. So it's always been a challenge. It always will be a challenge, but AI is helping, but also harming the situation at the same time. So it's always going to be this cat and mouse game that I don't think will ever end, but will constantly evolve.
What do you think about when people say that LinkedIn ads are getting way too expensive? And frankly, since Microsoft took over, costs have skyrocketed. Like it's inarguable in terms of cost per click and whatnot. How do you respond to that?
It is very expensive. LinkedIn is a lot more expensive than Meta, and in many cases, Google search and Google display. There's just, I assume that's just because they have less impressions to work with. And in many cases, like when a brand goes and sets up a campaign on LinkedIn, they're targeting an audience that's pretty small of professionals. A lot of times, like these audiences are 20,000, 50,000, 100,000 in size. Some cases, we had a client that had an audience of 2,500 and the CPMs were $650 for a CPM. $650.
I thought mine was bad.
No, I would say for LinkedIn, if you have a CPM of around like somewhere between $50 to $75, that's acceptable. It's like you should pat yourself on the back because you're not going to see much better than that.
What the hell, Keith? I think mine is like $150.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm saying there's always room for improvement, but having a CPM of $100 is very normal. It's very, very common. Then it's all about like, okay, if you're paying that much for CPMs, you better make sure that you have a message that is resonating with that audience. And putting these incentives in your ads, like gift cards, it gets people to stop scrolling and pay attention to your ad. I mean, this is the whole trick right here. A lot of our ads will have that incentive as the main thing that they see first. It might be an Amazon gift card, a Visa gift card, or an espresso coffee machine maker, but they stop and they're like, okay, something's here. Then they read your message. Now you just got to make sure that that message is going to resonate with them. Before, if you remove that incentive, well, they're not going to stop scrolling. They're just not going to read it. So you never even get a chance to get your message across to them. So it's like first incentive, get them to stop scrolling. And that message is your marketing claim. So it better be a very relevant marketing claim. And then right below that, you should have like a call to action, making it clear that this incentive could be yours if you sign up for a meeting. Then they click through, and on the landing page, that's like the payoff. Now you need to really help them understand, well, what are they going to talk about in this meeting? What are they going to get out of it? Like people do not want to sign up for sales meetings. So we always try to position it where there's one of two things. Either you're going to get something of value from the brand, so that could be a free trial or of assessment or some kind of audit, or it might be something that they want to learn about, that they perceive you as like an expert. And so that's what works for us really well, is everybody wants to learn how to generate better leads and more leads using incentives. It's kind of a popular strategy right now. And our whole promise is like, you sign up for this meeting, we're going to break it all down for you. And then when we do it, they're usually like really excited about it. And, but still there's a lot of things involved in executing that. And so why not just kind of partner with us and have us do it for you? So you see how that kind of whole story unfolds from initial ad impression all the way through to, the opportunity that needs to be kind of in line for any client that we work with. And it takes a little bit of time to get that right.
Yeah, what I'm hearing is pattern disruption, value, qualify, education. All right, here's the CTA. Are you on board or not?
Yeah, it's good.
What is the, you can pay me later. What is the what's the minimum spend to make LinkedIn worth its time? I mean, I have clients that can spend a couple $1,000,000 without blinking, and then you have clients like me that are brand new, shoestring budget. How much is it? And I know that's broad because it depends on what you sell. If you're selling an ERP, you're going to have a hell of a lot more spend to get a lead than like me where I de-anonymize website traffic. But what is like the bare bones minimum where if you don't have at least this, just save your damn money?
Yeah. I would say what our rule of thumb is $150 a day, at least 3 days a week, because that will be enough for you to learn what you need to learn about the effectiveness of your ads and get it right to where you're now getting a good return on ad spend. And then once you get to that point, it's very easy to scale things up. So you might scale it out to 5 days a week at $150 a day. And you might scale it up to like $500 a day. But it's much easier to scale things up when you have messaging that's working. You have a good click-through rate. We want to make sure that our ads have a click-through rate of at least 0.45% or higher. And we also like to see our cost per clicks somewhere in the range of like, $10 to $30. It really depends on the size of the audience. But that's what I would say. $150 a day, 3 days a week is kind of the starting point so that you can learn what you need to learn. And then after you get your ads correct, then it's easy to scale from there.
Do you recommend DSPs, Meta, anything like that for retargeting, or is it pretty much pointless?
Well, DSPs, like the way I kind of describe DSPs, it's everything that is not the walled gardens, right? Facebook is the walled garden. The walled gardens, what's great about the walls is it keeps the bots out, but it's hard to get insights out of the walled gardens, right? So there's kind of like this trade-off. DSPs, which I see as kind of the open programmatic, it's all the inventory outside of the walled gardens. I don't trust it at all. It's just me. And so I don't think that you can really generate any kind of leads from those. So I just recommend my clients stay away from it. If you want to leverage it for really cheap CPMs and drive brand awareness, well, that's a whole different thing, right? But don't expect to get those eyeballs to click through and convert. Lower funnel, keep it within the walled gardens or Google search. If it's upper funnel, you could still run through the walled gardens, but DSPs do become an option in terms of like display and video.
So like Meta could be good for retargeting, could be good for top of funnel. But again, same thing, you wouldn't turn on audience expansion, just like Google display or any of those.
So yeah. So retargeting, Meta's great because it's way cheaper than LinkedIn. But as a B2B marketer, you would not go to Meta unless you're remarketing there, because Meta just has way less information on professionals. So it's hard for them to kind of isolate your perfect audience. But if you have a ton of data on them, then it's a great avenue because it's going to bring down your CPMs, a lot, and your cost per clicks a lot. But so usually it's like website retargeting on Meta. So retargeting the people that visit your website. So if you have some decent website traffic, then Meta is great for retargeting. You're going to get much better rates there than compared to cold targeting on LinkedIn, for sure.
Love it. Keith, this is awesome. You've taught me a lot about ads over the last couple of months we've been working together. Results speak for themselves. Curious to see what happens in the holiday season because everyone's advertising, so I expect ads to go up. I think anyone probably should. But this is super helpful. Everyone says LinkedIn. Where should people connect with you? LinkedIn?
LinkedIn, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, really appreciate you coming on, sir.
Okay, thank you.